Right now, somewhere in the UK, an elderly person is on the phone with someone who sounds exactly like their bank. Calm voice, professional, uses the right words, tells them their account has been compromised, that fraudsters are trying to empty it, and that the only way to keep the money safe is to walk to the nearest cash machine or branch, withdraw everything they can and hand it to a courier who will bring it somewhere secure. And because it sounds so official, so urgent, so believable, that person does exactly what they're told. By the time they realize what's happened, the money is gone. Not to some faceless system, not to new banking rules. Gone into the hands of a criminal who specifically targeted them because of their age. That is not a hypothetical. That is happening today, this week, across this country, and it is the single biggest real threat to older people's savings in Britain right now. And here's the uncomfortable truth. While that genuine danger is quietly draining people's life savings, a completely different kind of noise has been flooding YouTube and Facebook. Videos claiming there are strict new withdrawal limits for anyone over 60, specific figures like £500 a day, specific dates in January or March, dramatic talk of safety interviews and circuit breakers. I looked into every one of those claims properly before making this video. I checked them against the Financial Conduct Authority. I checked them against the actual banks. And I need to tell you plainly, I could not find a single official source for any of it. No FCA rule, no bank policy document, nothing. Just article after article online, all copying each other, none of them linking to anything real. So today I'm doing two things for you. First, I'm going to walk you through what is genuinely happening with cash access in the UK, calmly and accurately, so you're never caught off guard by something that's actually true. And second, I'm going to arm you against the real danger, the one that isn't a rumor, the one that's already cost thousands of people their savings. Because that is the threat actually deserving of your attention this year. Let's start with the fear-mongering, because I think it's worth understanding why it exists before we move past it. Videos claiming dramatic new restrictions on your money get watched. They get shared by worried children to worried parents. They generate exactly the kind of anxious clicking that earns money for whoever made them. Some of these videos even use that anxiety to funnel you toward a comment section link promising a special payment you supposedly qualify for. If you've ever seen a video that frightens you about your bank account and then, in almost the same breath, tells you to check the comments for a payment you're owed, that is not journalism. That is not banking policy. That is a trap dressed up to look official. I want you to remember that pattern because recognizing it is one of the best defenses you have. Now let's talk about what's actually real, because there genuinely is change happening in how cash works in this country, and it's worth understanding properly rather than through a fog of invented panic. Back in 2023, Parliament passed a law called the Financial Services and Markets Act. And one of the things it did was give the Financial Conduct Authority, the body that regulates banks, a brand new job. For the first time, the FCA was given the responsibility of protecting your access to cash. That might sound like a small administrative detail, but it's actually a significant shift. Before this law, whether your local cash machine or branch stayed open was largely down to the bank's own commercial decisions. After this law, it isn't purely up to them anymore. These rules came into force in September 2024, and they remain active and enforced right now. Here is what they actually require. If a bank or building society wants to close a branch, remove a free cash machine, or reduce cash services in an area, they are legally required to properly assess what effect that would have on local people. They have to look at how many people would be affected, how far they'd have to travel instead, and whether that gap would leave people without reasonable access to cash. If the assessment shows it would leave a genuine gap, the bank cannot simply close the service and walk away. They have to ensure something else is put in place first, another cash machine, a shared banking space, an arrangement with the post office before the old service disappears. This is, when you strip away the noise, a protective measure working in your favor. It exists specifically because people, communities, and consumer groups pushed for it after watching branches vanish from high streets for years, with nothing put in their place. And it isn't just theoretical. If you ever feel that cash access in your own area has become inadequate, too far to travel, too long a queue, not enough machines, you are entitled to formally raise that. Residents, Local businesses, community representatives, and charities can all request a review of the cash provision in a specific area. It's a real mechanism, and it's there to be used, not just read about. Let's talk next about something that's becoming more common, and that you may already be seeing appear near you. Banking hubs. A banking hub is a shared space, usually right on the high street, where multiple different banks take turns sending staff on different days of the week. So, even where your own bank's branch has closed, you may still be able to walk into a real building, speak to a real person, pay in a check, withdraw cash, or get help with something more complicated. The number of these hubs has been steadily growing, and if there isn't one near you yet, there may be a plan for one, or you may be able to request that your area be considered. It is genuinely worth taking 5 minutes to check what's near you, because a surprising number of people don't realize this option now exists in their town. Now, here's the part that I think is at the very heart of where all that fake fear-mongering comes from, twisted into something misleading. It is completely true, and always has been, that if you walk into a branch and ask to withdraw a genuinely large sum of cash, not your usual weekly amount but several £1,000s, the cashier may ask you some questions. Where is the money going? Is it for a large purchase? Are you handing it to anyone else? This is not some brand new rule invented for this year. It is standard practice, rooted in long-standing laws that require banks to help prevent fraud and money laundering. And crucially, it is one of the few remaining moments where a human being trained to spot the signs has a chance to gently intervene before someone's life savings disappear into a scam. Because here is the truth those other videos never actually mention. The people asking you these questions at the counter are very often not obstructing you. They are trying to protect you. Bank staff are specifically trained now to recognize the signs of an older customer who's been coached by a scammer over the phone. Nervous, evasive about why they need the cash, repeating a story that sounds rehearsed. A pause at the counter, an awkward question, even a short delay while someone checks something. These have, in documented cases, been the exact moment that stopped someone from handing their savings to a criminal. That pause is not bureaucracy. It might be the only thing standing between you and disaster. So let's go back to where we started, because I want to spend real time on this properly, because this is the part that actually matters for your safety this year. Courier fraud and impersonation scams targeting older people are not rare isolated incidents. They follow a recognizable pattern, and once you know that pattern, you become far harder to catch out. It typically begins with a phone call. The person on the other end may already know your name, sometimes your bank, occasionally even recent transactions, because scammers do research their targets. They'll claim to be from your bank's fraud department, or sometimes the police, and they'll tell you there's a serious problem. Someone is trying to access your account, a large payment is about to go through, your card has been cloned. The tone is calm, professional, urgent but controlled. It's designed specifically not to sound like a scam. Then comes the ask. They'll tell you the only way to keep your money safe is to withdraw it, sometimes framed as helping an investigation, sometimes as protecting it from a supposed imminent theft. They may instruct you to visit more than one cash machine or branch, sometimes across a single day, to avoid raising suspicion. And then the final and most dangerous step. A courier will be sent to collect the cash, or you'll be asked to hand it over in person, sometimes to someone claiming to be a police officer or bank official at your own front door. At every single stage of this, the scammer is relying on one thing: your trust in the process and your instinct to comply quickly with what sounds like an official, urgent instruction. That is exactly why knowing the real, calm facts about how banking actually works is such a powerful form of protection. Real banks and real police will never ask you to withdraw cash and hand it to a courier. They will never ask you to move money to a safe account over the phone. They will never pressure you to act within minutes. When you know that with total certainty, a call that would otherwise create panic instead creates suspicion, and suspicion is what saves people. So let's turn all of this into something practical. Here is what I genuinely want you to take from this video, based only on what is real. First, understand that cash access in this country is currently protected by law, not eroding by stealth. Branches and cash machines can't simply vanish from your area without a proper assessment of the impact and, where needed, a replacement being put in place first. You are not watching cash quietly disappear with no recourse. You have a right to request a review if your local access genuinely isn't good enough. Second, get familiar with what's actually near you. Take a few minutes, perhaps this week, to check whether there's a banking hub in your town. And note where your nearest post office is, since a great deal of everyday banking can now be done there as well as at a traditional branch. Third, if you know you'll need a larger amount of cash than usual, for a big purchase, a holiday, a one-off event, it's simply good practice to let your bank know a day or two in advance where you can. Not because of some invented 2026 rule, but because branches don't hold unlimited cash on the premises, and giving a little notice avoids unnecessary disappointment or delay. Fourth, and this is genuinely the most important point in this entire video, if you ever receive a call, a visit, or a message telling you to withdraw cash urgently and hand it to someone, a courier, a stranger at the door, anyone, stop everything. Do not act in the moment, no matter how convincing or official it sounds. Hang up the phone, then call your bank back using the number printed on the back of your card or on a genuine statement, never a number given to you by the caller. Real fraud teams understand this precaution completely and will never be offended by it. If anything ever feels rushed, that speed itself is the warning sign. Fifth, talk about this with the people around you. Scammers often deliberately target people who live alone or who might feel embarrassed to mention a strange call to family. There is no shame whatsoever in being targeted. These criminals are professional, well-rehearsed, and specifically choose their approach to sound convincing to anyone. The people who avoid becoming victims are very often simply the ones who've heard in advance exactly what the pattern looks like, which is precisely why I wanted to lay it out for you today. And finally, if you ever feel your bank has treated you unfairly, closed a service without proper warning, made accessing your own money unreasonably difficult, or failed to protect you when they should have, you do have real rights. You can complain directly to the bank, and if that doesn't resolve things, you can escalate the matter entirely free of charge to the Financial Ombudsman Service. That's an independent body that exists specifically to settle disputes between people and financial institutions fairly, without needing a solicitor or a courtroom. So here is where I want to leave you. The real story of cash in Britain this year isn't a secret crackdown on your own money, and it isn't a countdown clock ticking towards some dramatic new restriction. The real story is that access to cash is now genuinely protected by law, that new options like banking hubs are quietly expanding to fill the gaps left by closed branches, and that the actual danger to your savings isn't a form at the counter. It's a calm, convincing voice on the other end of a phone call asking you to trust it completely and act right now. Knowledge is what breaks that pattern, not fear of the bank. Fear, properly understood and pointed in the right direction, at the people who are actually trying to take your money. If this video helped make things clearer, please share it, especially with anyone you know who might have seen one of those other misleading videos and felt genuinely frightened by it. If you've had a suspicious call yourself, I'd genuinely like to hear about it in the comments because sharing these stories helps everyone watching recognize the pattern faster next time. And if you'd like it, I'll put together a follow-up video walking through exactly how banking hubs work and how to find your nearest one. Thank you for watching Retired UK. Stay informed, stay calm, and stay one step ahead of the people who are counting on you not to be.